There's a guy who is a host on Newsmax. His name is Chris Salcedo. When he had a radio show, I appeared on Chris Salcedo's show. It was completely bonkers. We just talked past each other. The interview made no sense. Chris Salcedo now has a show on Newsmax, and Chris Salcedo floats the absolutely insane conspiracy theory that Nancy Pelosi wants Brett Kavanaugh to be assassinated so that Joe Biden will get another Supreme Court pick. And this was said during an interview with Illinois Republican Congressman Rodney Davis. Rodney Davis doesn't even say, Chris, that's crazy. That's absolutely insane. Nancy Pelosi wants assassinations now. This all relates to an incident that took place with Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, where an armed man was, I guess, picked up by police a block or two away from Brett Kavanaugh's house. And he was there because he was angry with Brett Kavanaugh. And Chris Salcedo says, this might be a plan to actually kill Kavanaugh, in which Pelosi is involved. Take a look at this. The height of irresponsibility.
A lot of folks are starting to ask some questions out there, Congressman. They're openly wondering why Nancy Pelosi sat on a bill that was passed by the Senate to protect Supreme Court justices. Now she's moving after an assassination attempt on Justice Kavanaugh. Are Americans right to question if Pelosi was actually hoping for or encouraging violence that could lead to Joe Biden appointing a new Supreme Court justice?
Well, it certainly questions that Nancy Pelosi and others need to answer as to...
Pelosi needs to answer. Are you trying to kill a Supreme Court justice so that Joe Biden will get a pick? She must answer that question. It's imperative.
Why she thought somehow Justice Kavanaugh, after having an assassin in his backyard, is somehow safe over the weekend. We could have gotten to this bill last week.
By the way, I don't know that the guy was in the backyard. Not that it matters,
but she chose to hold it up, and she needs to answer as to why. I mean, it was 5 years ago that this left-wing gunman, inspired by rhetoric like Republican policies are killing people, tried to kill me and my friends.
By the way, then they show pictures of his house, which is really something else. So this is an outrageous conspiracy theory. And by the way, many of these people celebrated when Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. Understand that. And speaking of which, you know how I've said before, allegations are often confessions, like with the whole election fraud, voter fraud thing leading up to the 2020 election. What they were really saying was, we're going to try to steal the election. They were saying Democrats are planning to steal it. What in reality is they are planning to steal it. Should it be looked at as to whether Ruth Bader Ginsburg really just genuinely died of disease? Now, of course, I'm being tongue in cheek. I'm being facetious. But if they all of a sudden are so focused on Pelosi's trying to kill Kavanaugh, maybe it's another one of these thinly veiled confessions. And one of the things that is important here, first of all, the absurdity of, Kavanaugh has armed security and all these different things. Kind of weird that Pelosi's going to try to kill him by sending some deranged gunman to his backyard when there's all this protection. That doesn't really make sense. But beyond that, violent conspiracies are not only often projection, but they are very common in this. They're common in fascism. They're common in authoritarianism, where you have to constantly talk about these violent threats, which are then used to justify more authoritarianism. And I don't even think Chris Salcedo's conspiracy theory is well put together enough to really fall under that. But they're a common sort of feature that we often see. We'll have this clip along with others that we've played on our Facebook page, which you can find at facebook.com/David Pakman Show.